Hello, everybody. My name is Kenton DeYoung, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Dylan Furman.
Hi.
And this is Unsolved Canadian Mysteries. So, Dylan, how you been?
Kenton, I have been swell for the most part. I've been good, Kenton. How have you been?
I've been all right. It's summertime now. The weather's nice now.
Yeah.
Stormy.
Yes. And not, it's actually been kind of wet, but recently not.
It actually fits our story tonight very well, the weather.
Wet? Or just the weather?
Electric.
Okay. Oh, someone getting struck by lightning.
Well, we'll see.
Called it.
We'll see.
And it was aliens. What did we talk about last time? Like, I know we did one for Patreon.
Yes.
Which was the demon, which was very cool. Check that one out.
Yes.
That's like awesome.
Yeah, the Dag Demon one. Yeah, we've been sharing that on our TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all over the place.
But what was the last free one we did?
The disappearance of Nick and Lisa Massey. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, which is a good one as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one is a free one for everyone.
Yep.
Free F for free.
Yes. So thank you for checking us out. Thank you for listening, but also check us out on Patreon too if you want to support the channel. So, are you ready for tonight's episode?
I am ready. Yep.
All right.
I had a voice crack there. Wow. Yeah. I'm ready, Cannon.
We'll give a little bit of background first. We'll lead up to it. We'll talk about the area, and then we'll talk about what happened on the ground level. Okay. So there's a couple different sides to the story. So we'll start off. In 1963, the United States put out a variety of satellites called the Vela satellites, and their purpose was to monitor the Earth for nuclear detonations. Just going into the Cold War, they wanted to see what Russia was doing.
I was literally just going to ask, when was this?
Yeah, sort of what the USSR was doing.
Yeah.
In 1963, they put them out there. They had about 12 of these total circling the planet, watching for things. Okay. In 1977, so a few years later, they started picking up a lot of noise along the eastern seaboard of the United States and Canada. And on the ground level and surface level, people were reporting these anomalies too. They were calling them skyquakes. Have you ever heard of a skyquake?
No, that sounds like something Marvel would come up with.
Yes, it sounds like a video game, kind of. I'm thinking Quake.
Skyquake.
So they had these skyquakes occurring up in the atmosphere. And to this day, this isn't the mystery we're talking about, but to this day, we don't know what causes skyquakes. But what they are is like some kind of boom or noise coming out of the sky. Think of it like thunder, but higher up, and with doesn't have to be clouds involved.
Huh.
So the idea here is that, because they brought in like professors from Los Alamos to investigate, they brought in a whole bunch of people from the Department of Defense to investigate, and they think what was causing it was the Concorde aircraft was going double the speed of sound and was causing a
double sonic boom.
Yeah, and that was ricocheting off like the atmosphere and causing this skyquake. So there was in this area, there was about 600 skyquakes in the course of about 6 months. They said, okay, well, we'll look into this, and they determined that of the 600 skyquakes, 200 of them could be attributed to the Concorde aircraft. 1/3, right? So they decided, okay, we'll tell the Concorde not to fly at certain altitudes, not to fly here or there. But other skyquakes had occurred when the Concorde wasn't even around. So could have been like an echo, like maybe it happened and then it came back around later. They don't know.
I'm smelling aliens, Kenton.
Well,
I'm smelling some aliens coming on.
Okay, well, I'm not going to dismiss aliens this time, but we'll get to it. We'll get to some possibilities at the end. So they tell the Concorde, hey, why don't you fly somewhere else for a bit and we see what's going on. And it's quiet for a few weeks. Then on April 2nd, 1978, the satellites picked up another anomaly. This one was a light anomaly larger than the explosion of Hiroshima.
That's large.
Big. This light anomaly released so much energy, they believed it could have powered the city of Montreal for 6 hours. Now, like that's a lot now. I think a little bit less back then because Montreal's bigger now.
Yeah, it's always going to grow.
So maybe 3 hours now was just for population increase.
I wonder how much. That would be interesting to see, because it might actually even be more than double just because of how much like things we have around the house. Like imagine how many electronics people had back then.
That's true.
Right? And the electric cars,
Yeah, but also things are more energy efficient now. So that would be a good question. Whatever caused this explosion, it was the size of about a 10 megaton bomb exploding. The satellites kind of pinpointed where it came from, and it came from a very surprising place. A farm in Bell Island, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well,
This anomaly we're going to talk about tonight is the infamous Bell Island boom.
of course, they both have bees. The Bell Island boom.
Yeah, that'll be fun on the mic.
Boom. Boom. Yeah.
Okay, when these skyquakes were occurring along the seaboard, they were also accompanied by ball lightning. Now, ball lightning is another anomaly that they don't really have an answer for. Skyquakes, they kind of think they know what caused it, but ball lightning, they just don't know. There's been lots of reports of ball lightning through the years where, as opposed to like a streak, it's a floating sphere of lightning.
Plasma.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, something causing a burst of plasma. So oftentimes when they heard these booms, they spotted this ball lightning as well. And when this occurred, this lightning occurred in Bell Island, there was the boom, there was the skyquake, and there was ball lightning. But there was something else, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So we'll talk about what Bell Island is for people who don't know. So Bell Island is this really small island off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. It was kind of made famous because of the iron ore that they mine out of the island.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good quality ore that in the early 1900s, their largest foreign exporter, was Germany. And at the time, they were British, right? They weren't Canadian until after the Second World War. So you'd think it would be Canada or Britain or something like that. But no, their largest exporter was Germany. They were buying all of their iron ore. There's 2 world wars and depression, right? In the Second World War, Nazi Germany knew that this Bell Island had a lot of material that the Allies could use to fight them with. So they actually sent ships, so I think it was submarines, to attack Bell Island and destroy the ports. So there's markers there from where they blew up some of the ports along the Bell Island shore, which is kind of cool because you don't think about Nazi Germany attacking Canada. Of course, it wasn't Canada yet; it was Britain, but I mean it's Canada now, so
right.
It's kind of cool to think about. Because of all the mining on Bell Island, a lot of people from different cultures went there and mixed and shared their legends, right? So there's a couple of cool legends about Bell Island. One of them is the Bell Island hag.
Hag.
I think it was bog hag, or it's a woman who apparently lives in the bog.
Oh, a hag. Okay.
And when men approach her to maybe offer her assistance, so they go, "Where are you going at night?" She becomes an animal and chases them and attacks them, and I'm assuming drags them into the bog.
Cool.
Okay.
Why are we not talking about this?
Well, we could, but so there's a few things going on in this island. There's also
This island's got all of the stories.
yes. Newfoundland and Labrador also have a project called Munfla, and Munfla records all of the fairy encounters on the island. So Bell Island has an instance where someone was abducted by fairies. So you got everything on this island.
Yeah.
And this island is actually supposedly the most haunted island in Canada. So, whoa, what's going on here?
Whoa, how do we get to that island?
I was thinking we got to go there for a podcast.
Yeah.
So, April 2nd, 1978, there's a massive electricity explosion over this island. They're thinking it was drawn to the island because of the ore, and I'm thinking the ore causes magnetic effects, which is what causes these hauntings or specters or fairies or whatever. So I think the ore is the underlying root cause to this, but it's not what happened, right? Something else happened, but it's why it happened here. So James Bickford was living at the farm at the time of the Bell Island boom.
Okay.
And this electrical storm struck the area, and he says that his television set blew up as he was watching TV, and that blue flames shot out of the electrical outlets on the walls, and the power box, the fuses, blasted out of it and got stuck in the wall on the other side of the room.
Cool.
So entire explosion.
Yeah.
The barn outside the farmhouse decimated, completely fried, gone, vaporized. All the chickens fried. Guess what they having for supper that night? You know,
Yeah.
fried chicken.
Decimated chicken.
Decimated chicken. Blackened, decimated,
Yeah.
fried chicken. Nice. New KFC special.
Yeah.
Yeah. The power lines connecting to the house, they had also all been zapped so much that the rubber on them had melted. So I don't know anything about those lines, like how much that temperature has to be, but to give people an idea, maybe someone's like, oh, that has to be this much temperature. That's what it was to melt the lines. Outside the house, I've heard mixed reports how many holes they found. Is either 2 or 3 or 4 holes, several feet wide, 4 or 5 feet wide on the property. Something had struck the ground, and they said they were like deep, like rabbit holes right into the ground. So this Bell Island boom was heard all across the island, and even across onto like the main land of Newfoundland and Labrador, and it very quickly got the attention of the authorities. Within days, the Canadian military was there, the American military was there, and the Russian military was there. All three were like, what happened here?
Well, why is the Russians there?
Well, Soviet Russians, but it could be maybe they thought it was a thing that the Russians did, and the Russians thought maybe it was a thing the Americans did.
Yeah, but why would they like it? Like, isn't that funny? I was like, oh, Canada, well, we're right there. That's why we heard it. And then America's like, oh, yeah, we were kind of nearby. That's why we heard it. And the Russians like, we were in the ocean spying on you. And we heard it.
There's also some agents from Los Alamos there in your typical black suits, black ties.
Men in black.
Men in black, right? So, of course, aliens. And again, the time period we're talking about, 1977, 78, Star Wars had just come out. So it was on everybody's mind, right?
In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. So these men in black from Los Alamos investigated, checked out the scene. They asked a lot of odd questions, but of course no one says what the questions were. And they seemed to be not too surprised by what they were looking at. But the military were confused. They didn't know what this was. At least they seemed confused.
Yeah.
So a few months later, they announced what they think it was, and they called it a super bolt. A extremely powerful bolt of lightning that struck the ground. But the problem with this theory of it being a super bolt of lightning is that it was a sunny day, right? You usually need a storm to cause these bolts of lightning.
I have heard of that happening though. Like, I remember I watched a video of this kid. He was walking to school and it was snowing, and there was a freak lightning strike that struck him.
Wow.
And it was like it was winter, and it never it was called. What is it called? White flash or something like that?
Yeah.
Some kind of thing, and it happened. So I think, yeah, rare, but I don't know. Like, all it is there's electricity in the atmosphere and it discharges into the ground, right?
There was a metallic taste in the air afterwards.
Crazy.
So I'm thinking, yeah, I think it sounds like there's some kind of like magnet, or I'm trying to think when there's, when you go outside during a thunderstorm, after a thunderstorm, you can like feel it in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like that kind of thing.
Could also be radiation.
Yeah, that is right. That's right. They do say that it's a metallic taste in the mouth from radiation, right? One theory came out, of course, it was aliens, right?
Yeah.
Because the timeline makes sense. It's some kind of atmospheric anomaly. Sounds good, right? It was aliens. But of course, then you have to admit to the fact that aliens exist, and that's a whole other kind of worms. The other one is that it's a super bolt, just a random freak bolt of lightning, possibly at that island because of the ore in it.
Right.
They say these super bolts happen a lot in the ocean, but this time, it's near the ocean. It could have just been drawn to the
metal.
Yeah, exactly. The more common theory that people assume, but the military doesn't accept, is that this was a weapons test by the United States government.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like radiation in the air.
The United States used weather manipulation weapons in Cambodia, Laos, and northern Vietnam in those different wars.
Yeah.
And in 1977, a treaty was signed. So the year before this happened, there was a treaty signed kind of banning weather manipulating weapons.
Right.
So the idea was that they were maybe testing it, not as a weapon, but maybe just as they were testing nukes all the time then too, right?
Yeah.
So the idea was they had some kind of thing that would fire at the ionosphere and then bounce down.
Oh.
And that was causing the skyquakes, was this thing hitting the atmosphere and coming down. At the same time, or shortly after, they were working on HARP, which was up in Alaska to work on do things in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be, they call it like a shield over North America. So it was supposed to be something like that. So the idea was this was some kind of either a weapon or a defense system that's sending these beams up into the sky and then bouncing them down, and that there was a miscalculation, or they didn't anticipate this island being so magnetic and it hit the island instead. Now, one of the reasons why this is a leading theory is because after the Bell Island boom, there wasn't a lot more of these. There was one 2 years later recorded by the satellites in Antarctica. So far away from anybody, far away from any witnesses, any kind of technology. So they were testing it down there instead. So that's the theory, is that it was a weapons test. There's also the idea that they were using some kind of cloud seeding technology that they did in other combats, because there was that taste in the air.
Right.
But there wasn't any clouds. So that kind of defeats the whole idea that they have to have clouds. So maybe it was something else in the air that wasn't forming full clouds, but enough to cause a strike of lightning. What did I miss anything else? So one of the witnesses there, named Ed Bennett, he was in his house, not that far from the property where it struck, when this Bell Island boom occurred. And he had the same thing. He had fire, electricity burst out of his outlets. And he also had, he claims, his old grandfather clock, which just was not hooked up to anything, just staying there. It also chimed by itself. So the electromagnetic force was so much it caused the clock to turn on.
Okay.
Kind of thing. But the people who were in the area, who saw it or something of that sort, said it came at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
And hit the ground, and that there was ball lightning around it. So that's the idea, is that it came not straight down from the sky, but at an angle with electricity kind of zapping away from it.
Cool.
So they don't know what it was. Later, there was another kind of thing like that in Newfoundland and Labrador, but it was just like a stone arch collapsing, but it made enough noise that they thought it was a second Bell Island boom, and they got freaked out. But it was not. It was just a natural arch collapsing by the ocean.
Huh.
So this was an isolated incident, the largest electronic anomaly in Canadian history. 3 governments were involved, and no explanation was provided except Superbolt.
Right.
So not much to go on because it's not much out there. What do you think happened?
Well, you know, I don't really know much about anything, but it's possible. Like, all 3 are okay, right? Like,
Yep.
especially with all the more and more information that we keep on getting fed about aliens recently.
Yep. Yep.
But definitely the weapons test wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, at all.
Yep.
Like, that seems actually most plausible. But, you know, super Earth thunderbolt, sure, whatever. Super volcanoes, super earthquake, super man, you know.
Yep.
Lots of supers out there. Why not be a thunderbolt?
Yep.
For a thunderbolt to be super thunderbolt, I just don't see how. Well, maybe not, because for a super thunderbolt, it would have to resist being discharged for so long so it can build up. Or maybe I don't understand it. But you'd think it would have to resist and resist. But what's causing it to resist until maybe that's the anomaly.
You're right. Or
a reason for the lightning not to be discharged.
Or if it's like, because I think what caused the lightning is a connection between the ground and the sky.
Right.
Or 2 points in the sky.
So it's over the ocean island.
And there could have been something like the material from the island could have been the air. Maybe a mining thing had happened and some particles were in the air. Maybe cloud seeding. Who knows what? Could have been some stuff from the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And just caused the air around the island, around that spot, to be more conductive for some reason. Yeah. Could have been maybe 2 things happening.
Yeah.
Has caused this.
I'd say 70% weapon, 20%, 25% Superbolt, 5% aliens. That's in my head.
If I understood more of what the United States' weapon was, because like you think, hey, if they make this weapon that they can use to bounce off the atmosphere and cause these super powerful bolts of lightning, why haven't we seen it? Like, it's been 50 years. Are they still using this thing? Like, it just seems like a weapon they had that was obviously effective, or a defensive weapon that they had that they never used.
There was lots of weapons, though, they didn't use. Yeah. Like, there's the bat bomb. You ever see the bat bomb?
Isn't that when they put the bombs on bats?
Yeah, they put the napalm on the bats, and they were going to release it in Japan because they had all the flammable homes, and they would fly into the homes, and then...
That's right.
Like, they had crazy stuff they were doing.
That's true.
Crazier stuff.
The weapons test, I could see it, and I could see it being kept secret by the government. Like, oh, we don't want to talk about it. We'll just say it's a natural phenomenon. Put under the rug. And I could see Russia being involved then. Like, what are you Americans doing? And maybe that's why they scrapped it, because all the Russians figured it out.
Yeah. Oh, right? we can't practice. We can't keep on doing this anymore. Yeah.
Like, oh, now they know our defensive. We got to find new things. So maybe I could see it. The aliens, I think that's just like a throwaway idea, because the timeline with Star Wars was out there. It was an anomaly kind of from space. To say it was aliens. No, the thing, okay, the Falcon Lake thing, where there's a UFO and the guy got burned by it.
Right.
That was alien. Like you could say that was aliens, right? We got Granger Taylor who who talked to the UFOs, talked to the aliens. That was pretty alieny.
Yeah.
This one, you just have a bolt of lightning. You don't have little green people. You don't have any witness reports. You just have these.
You have an unexplained thing that doesn't have like any flavors of aliens.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm maybe 5%. I would even say not aliens at all. Superbolt, I think that's just a cover-up story. I'm leaning towards the weapons test, but even then, I'm kind of like, I don't know if that could be it. I'm not sold on it, but that's probably of the three, that's the most likely one.
Yeah, yeah. You'd have to think, unless there's just something we're not even thinking.
Like flying electric bears with laser beams.
Okay, are we gonna do this seriously, or are we gonna make a mockery of this every time we film? Okay.
Okay.
But you're right. It could be.
Could be bears with lasers.
Could be bears that eat iron and become highly conductive, creating a super bear bolt.
We could take it and say it could be something to do with the hag witch in the bog, or fairies. But
maybe it's the same witch that turned into the goose and that lived next to those poor people in the demon story, which, you know, you'd have to check out at the Patreon if you wanted to know what I'm talking about.
So those are the theories. I think we both kind of decided probably the weapons test.
Yeah, that's the most likely, I would think.
Yeah.
But
you know, when we did the Granger Taylor story, we had assumed he'd come back this year.
Yeah.
He didn't come back. So I'm thinking he got his calendar wrong.
Like I said, it's probably like a different, they have a different sense of time.
Yeah.
Like, further away you get, his time's different than ours.
It's true. Well, actually, when I was doing this story, I was like, oh, maybe there's a connection between Granger Taylor and this because of, like... But no, this happened before he disappeared.
Yeah.
This happened 78, he disappeared in 80, so there's no connection.
What if he disappeared at the exact same day?
See, I was thinking, oh, maybe there's something, right? Like, that'd be super cool. Or if it was like, you know, he disappeared and then the bolt of lightning came from the sky, like, a year later. But no. Doesn't make sense.
Or he got eaten by a bear, Kenton.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this short but rather interesting episode.
I dug it. It
was a different one. It was a fun one.
I liked it.
Not as serious as the experiences of people or horrible murders or that kind of thing, but
yeah,
a mystery. As always, my name is Kenton DeYoung, and this is my co-host Dylan Fairman. This has been Unsolved Canadian Mysteries.